Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network. For the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews, press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. From the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the schmoes know, this is Meet the Movie Press. Roundtable movie news and commentary from the industry's premier film journalists.
Oh my goodness. I'm all alone here.
You typing.
I feel, well, I was tweeting out the link that you can watch us live on YouTube. Good morning, everyone. I'm not used to handling the top of the show here with Mark Riley gone, but I'm Jeff Sneider, your loyal co-host here on Meet the Movie Press, film reporter at The Wrap. And this does not look like Mark Riley.
You sound slightly disappointed by that fact. You're not Mark Riley?
Not at all. Listen to this beautiful accent that you have. I feel we're lucky to have you here today.
Touch of class.
Folks, it's Simon Thompson. Showbiz Simon, right?
Yes, on Twitter.
That's where we can find
Simon,
you.
Which I have thought about changing because it is slightly jazz hands.
No, not at all.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I probably would have done something like that if Sneider hadn't it just makes sense.
It does.
There's a flow to it, but I don't think Showbiz Simon's perfect. What do you mean? There's alliteration.
Okay, I'm going to keep it. It's decided.
So tell us about yourself. I know we've been trying to get you on the show for a little while. And I'm glad that you could finally make it today because I need the help, guys.
Well, my schedule is so busy.
Look at that
right now.
So you are obviously British. You sound like you're from London.
You sound like you're from London. Yes, I am. I'm from the UK, but I actually now live over here.
Okay.
I relocated.
Whereabouts? Which neighborhood?
I live just off La Brea.
Okay. Love La Brea.
It's very. I've been informed it's very cool. Apparently, Drake.
Oh, okay.
Has a store around the corner from where I live.
Ooh, a little hotline bling.
Yes. So I looked very, very out of town the other day. I was like, excuse me, what's this shop with an owl on the outside? Turns out that's Drake's place.
How long have you been in Los Angeles?
Moved over from the UK at the end of last year.
Okay.
Halloween weekend. They decided to import a freak. Especially for the occasion.
You fit right in here in Hollywood.
Well, yes. Apparently you had a bit of a deficit of slightly overweight, middle-aged, bald men with glasses. So I realised there was a niche, and I thought, why not fill that niche? So I moved over at the end of last year. I am a film journalist.
Okay.
I've worked in TV and online in the UK for many, many years, and newspapers as well.
Okay.
So I've worked with the likes of Yahoo, MSN, the London Evening Standard, as it's called over here.
Hey, that's a big one.
Yeah, I've worked with Empire Magazine, Total Film as well.
Okay, so you've been around.
I've done
and you've seen it all.
Basically, I moved because I'd run out of places that I'd worked in the UK. Right. So I thought, I've done it. So I thought I'd come over here. I do a lot of TV in the UK as well. I still do for 5 News, BBC, and that kind of thing.
How did you get into this crazy racket?
I started out, believe it or not, as a serious news journalist. So I did 10 years.
Are we not serious here on Meet the Movie Press?
It's the new CNN. Yeah, so I did 10 years serious news journalism. That was just too damn depressing, if I'm really, really honest with you.
Okay.
And I've always had a passion for film and entertainment. So I moved over to work at The Sun, and I've been doing entertainment ever since on TV, radio, and online.
What do you love about it the most? What keeps you going and makes you wake up in the morning?
Well, I think to be honest with you, it's the fact that it's a hobby that's become a career. People always, and there's a lot of this in the industry where you don't get paid for doing it.
Of course, everyone goes through that.
Exactly. But basically the fact that I could turn my passion, my hobby, ever since I was a teenager and worked in a cinema as an usher, theatres, as they're called over here.
Right.
I will actually be doing translation throughout the morning. I've always had a passion for film. I studied it in college as well. And then the opportunity to turn it into a career.
Did you study filmmaking or film history?
I studied films.
Okay.
Yes. So, of which my favourite moment at college was when one of my lecturers decided to try and persuade me that, in fact, Jurassic Park was a feminist piece.
Okay.
I was like, okay, so we'll go with it. We studied Citizen
Kane
as well.
I'm trying to think how that would work.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, okay.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're going to mark my paper, I will say whatever you want. But also, I'm not a fan of Citizen Kane. We studied that as well. I'm going to be upfront with that. And then the fact that I'd just be able to turn my passion into a career.
Sure. No, listen, I started
Isn't that
off...
why we all do it, though?
Yeah, I started off writing for Ain't It Cool News, writing for 5 years for free, didn't see a dime from Harry, and I probably would have kept doing it. If I hadn't found like a gig that was paying me to do it. There is something special about this job. So like, how do you spend most of your days now? Are you reviewing films? Are you writing breaking news stories?
Well, currently I'm writing a lot of stuff for Forbes.
Okay.
So a lot of my stuff you can find online there, which will be everything from discussing current news stories right through to looking at sort of, yesterday I wrote a piece about whether or not it's a good idea for Viacom to look at selling Paramount Pictures.
Oh, okay, sure.
Early this week, I wrote about Deadpool and how that's put Ryan Reynolds back on the A-list after something of a roller coaster career.
We're going to talk about that later, too, believe me.
So what I write about and what I do, varies quite drastically. And obviously, a lot of stuff I do on TV in the UK is about breaking entertainment news.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, well, let's just dive into the news, I feel like. Let's talk about Deadpool.
Yeah.
So you've seen it twice now.
One of the few films that I've, A, not only seen twice, but B, paid to see twice. And the fact, if I actually put my hand in my wallet and I pay for a ticket...
It's a different thing, isn't it?
Kind of a big deal.
I agree.
And yeah, it is very different. And watching it with, luckily we get to watch films with journalists in quiet screening rooms and that kind of thing. Watching it in a theatre with everybody else is a very different experience, and watching it here in the US is a very different experience to watching it with an audience in the UK. One thing I have been surprised about with the audiences here, when I saw Deadpool for the first time last Friday, was the amount of children.
Yeah, people.
In there.
I love that. The irresponsible parents who sort of have no idea what they're getting their kids into.
Yeah, like 8, 9 years old.
I mean, if you're the kids, you're like, oh, thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
But you're right. That would be weird. I mean, 10-year-old kids in Deadpool. But I guess that's a parenting decision these days.
Each to their own.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that I paid to see it twice is kind of a big deal.
Now, why are you paying in the first place? You weren't invited to the all media?
I was not invited to the
Who do I gotta call at Fox
to... We need to sort that out.
You're right for fucking Forbes. Jesus.
There is a screening deficit right now, so we need to have some words. But yeah, I mean... if I paid to see a film, there's a pretty good reason. I paid to see Star Wars. I'm very careful about where I put my money when I go to see a movie. I love to support smaller films, but also for a blockbuster, it's got to be a big deal because it's not cheap going to the theatre.
No, of course not. Dude, I paid $15 to see Dirty Grandpa.
Oh my God, I'm so
$15
sorry.
a ticket.
So you are the person that actually saw it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I suffered for, everyone's sins.
Somewhere there is Robert De Niro's agent sending you flowers
right.
by the fact that you supported the continuing decline of his career.
So Deadpool you loved.
I did love it, yeah, in ways that I wasn't really thinking that I would love it, to be honest with you, because the trailers, the marketing campaign, by the way, has been absolutely exemplary.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, a real model in the industry of how to market a movie like this when you don't necessarily have either a gigantic star or a marquee character necessarily.
Yeah, and it's as you say, it's not a character that a lot of people are familiar with. And it's also very different to a lot of the Marvel films that are out there who, they can be quite navel-gazy, they can be quite serious, they can be very much for the purists, and this wasn't that. And I think, obviously, by the fact that it's had massive box office, that's really, really paid off. But it's just a film. It's probably the film that I've had the most fun in a long time. Even more than Star Wars The Force Awakens, which I loved, but it was a very different experience.
Of course. Well,
I mean,
that goes without saying.
Space.
So you feel like this makes Ryan Reynolds an A-list movie star again?
Yes, I think it does. He's had a really, really difficult career in the last couple of years, and
yes.
A lot of his films have really they've sucked. A lot of them have really sucked.
Yes.
And even the good ones, a lot of people haven't turned out to see. I mean, he has done good movies.
Like what? What are some Ryan Reynolds movies? See, I thought Buried was absolute garbage.
See, I love that.
Okay.
Okay. Oh my God, it's like talking to my wife about films.
Dude, I could not stand Buried.
I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
I loved The Nines, which is a long time ago.
God, that's another terrible one.
This is going
I
well.
reviewed that for Ain't It Cool News. That was a rough movie.
I love The Nines. I hated R.I.P.D.
I didn't even see that one.
You're not alone
Yep.
in that. No, nobody did, which was kind of part of the problem.
Green Lantern, an obvious disaster.
I remember actually interviewing Ryan Reynolds for that, and it was awkward. Clearly, he thought that film was just turd.
I have to look up Ryan Reynolds on IMDb now because I'm sure they were missing a few things.
Well, I mean, he voiced in Turbo. He was in Turbo.
He didn't even get a good animated movie.
No.
Like, this guy can't even pick the right fucking animated movie.
No, but I mean, to be honest with you, he was probably like, Ryan, we've got a script. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, these were
whatever.
bad. Like, the captive,
The
selfless.
proposal was a success, but was bad.
God.
I mean, that was bad.
Even his cameo. Remember, he's in A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah.
You can't even cameo in a good movie. You're right. This
So
was,
he's
dude,
had
the
a real problem.
voices. This is a brutal filmography here.
Yeah, X-Men Wolverine Origins.
But you know what me and Justin Kroll loved? The Change Up.
That was a horrendous film.
I know, most people hated it. We loved
even
it.
Jason Bateman doesn't like that movie. Okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
We're
on
all
that.
over the map, clearly, on Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds. Well, I do question whether he has returned to the A-list with this. Obviously, this is a huge movie, but do I think that all of Ryan Reynolds' movies are going to start opening like this? No.
No, but very few movies do.
Of course.
But I think what it will do is remind people actually about how likable Ryan Reynolds can be.
And listen, this character was perfect for him, and he did an excellent job carrying it. He really put it on his shoulders. He got the movie made, but like this movie Life that he's now doing over at Skydance, Daniel Espinosa directing. They worked together on Safe House, obviously, which was okay. And he's going to be paired with Rebecca Ferguson, who I think Hollywood's really excited about.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. That seems like going right back to, the kind of shit that didn't necessarily work before.
Yes.
Like, astronauts going into space and they find signs of alien life. Like, really? I've seen that a million times.
It's a bit samey, and there is a lot of that around, but I think we're going to have to go through the space period in Hollywood to get to the other side.
I was just disappointed that he was one of those guys who's getting that movie after their big opening weekend, like the first day. I would have waited. I would have just wrote it out a little bit and been more particular.
Yeah,
but
he's not the first that's happened to, and he certainly won't be the last. I mean, look at Jurassic World last year when that opened, did phenomenally well. Everybody suddenly loved Chris Pratt. Suddenly you look at, say, a Variety, The Wrap. Everybody suddenly is talking about casting news. Chris Pratt's attached to it, whether it's Indiana Jones.
Right. He's the hot... Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. After the Tom Hanks movie about the pirates...
Oh, Captain Phillips.
Yeah, the guy who played the villain in that, suddenly he was linked to 9 different movies.
Sure, I know that's how it works.
It's lazy, but it happens.
Ryan Reynolds is just tricky for me. I actually really like him, and I'm sure I have told that. I never even know anymore. I can't remember if I talked about this last week or not, but Ryan Reynolds, to me, like Chris Pratt, is interesting because he can do 3 things very well. He can be a romantic lead because he's good looking. He can be a comedy lead because he's funny. He can be an action lead because he's jacked. Someone like Tom Hardy cannot do that. He cannot play. He's not funny, and he really can't play a romantic lead either.
Fair.
We
saw that in This Is War.
Yes, exactly.
He doesn't do comedy.
So Ryan Reynolds has a very unique skill set in that he's like a triple threat, so to speak. But I'm not sure that he's found Deadpool came close to it for me, but I didn't love the movie. I didn't love the experience of watching it. I've heard from a lot of people who thought it was annoying. Maybe some of it's the hype, they got built up, and so they were I went in with low expectations and was pleasantly surprised, but I still didn't love it.
So what was missing then that you didn't quite like?
A plot, a story. I don't. It felt like
Here
2.5.
A film must have a story. That argument.
It was
we've
like
heard
2.5
1,000,000
scenes, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I don't think the villain was particularly strong in Deadpool.
I liked all the cast though. I actually thought Ed Skrein however you pronounce it, because I always fuck that up. I thought he did a good job for what he was given to work with, actually.
Yeah. I thought he was lacking. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I liked the humour of the film. I thought the violence was very, very well done. I thought the script was superb, and I thought even the art of the movie, so the opening sequence and the closing titles, were brilliant. It made me think, oh my god, why isn't there an Oscars for opening credits and end credits, because that would clean up this year.
I mean, listen, that stuff was really cool, but yeah, with that script, I felt like it was like if you put two 13-year-old boys in a room, they could have come up with that script.
Yes. Yes. I think that's probably why I liked it, because I think inside all of us there is a 13-year-old who does find jokes about balls and tits very funny.
Sure. So do you think that obviously this movie's like overperformed crazy?
Massively.
What was it? 150 domestic, 260 worldwide, basically something like that.
Even Fox didn't see that coming.
No, not at all.
What the Fox?
And it was crazy, like in the newsroom, to watch the estimates rise, where it was like, I think, people called me out on the show last week. I had told our box office reporter, don't go with the 90 million. I was like, I'm doubting that this movie's going to hit 90 million. Like, I'm thinking 85. And then it would just rise. It'd be like, oh no, it's definitely going 100. It's definitely going 115.
Well, even pre-release, even the studio was saying, okay, let's just pitch it around the 60 to 90.
Studios like to temper expectations so they can be like, oh my god, we're so surprised. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So do you think that this opens the door for more R-rated comic book movies and potentially an R-rated X-Men movie?
I'm going to say yes and no. Okay. Yes, I think because certainly here in the US, where you have an R-rated movie, like I say, you can take a 9-year-old. Nobody bats an eyelid. So you're not really going to lose a lot of money if you make it harder. And if the parents don't care, stick it out there. Not a problem. There are territories which then you do get into, say, the UK, where Deadpool is a 15. They are a bit more strict about enforcing that. So you are going to cut off some of the audience. There are going to be a lot of people within that market that are simply not going to be able to see it. So I think, yes, I think you should have... This is a really good example of why you can actually do it and still make a shed load of money. It's not going to harm the box office. But I think if you do take it in the direction of an R-rated movie, I think you might alienate a lot of those people that have really supported the franchise so far. But to be honest with you, the X-Men franchise does need something to give it a lift, because... the last one was not great. Box office was
I didn't think so
great.
either, and thank you, because that's not an opinion that you hear often.
I was bored.
I couldn't fucking stand Days of Future
really
Past.
Bored. Yeah, I thought it was a bridge movie. It was disappointing. It was dull. There were too many characters in it.
Yep.
And I just came out again like, oh.
I worry Apocalypse is going to suffer from similar problems.
I think that's fair.
I don't think it looks terribly exciting.
But I just think that it does need something as a franchise to give it a lift, to give it a kick in the nuts that is really going to excite audiences.
But do you really think... I know that there's been a lot of talk this week about Wolverine. That being rated R. And a lot of it came from this pamphlet that was at like a toy fair, and it was like, this is the expected rating. And it caught a lot of people by surprise. I think that we've seen a lot of misinformation in those kinds of pamphlets before, because it's not like... someone at Fox is signing off on this, but like not who you think might be signing off on these pamphlets.
Yeah.
Devin Faraci, our friend, a friend of the show, he said that he has sources who have indicated that Wolverine is going to be rated R. And then I've spoken with Justin Kroll privately, and we were both kind of surprised at those rumors. I could see it happening, but I just feel like they've made so many movies with Wolverine at PG-13. Why change the formula? Like, I don't know. That's the audience that has, like you said, supported the character over at how many movies. It would just seem weird to then go for the finale, make it more restrictive. Yeah,
but like I say, they do have to do something, because at the moment what they're doing is putting bums on seats. But it's not really taking the series where it needs to be. I think it either needs to go, I hate to say lighter, so kind of like a Deadpool or an Ant-Man, like one of the Fast and Furious movies did. They took it in a slightly more comedic route. Or they do need to make it harder and really appeal to the action fans.
Do you think that's what people want, is that we want to see Wolverine decapitating people and just carving them up and blood, strewn across the screen? Or
I'll be honest with you, I don't think people give a shit.
Okay.
I think, to be honest with you, they're either going to turn out for an X-Men movie or they're not going to turn out for an X-Men movie. My wife would never watch an X-Men movie, but she wanted to go and see Deadpool. I don't think the content is necessarily the issue. I think it's just making it interesting enough for an audience to stay with the franchise. And Fox, have learned when you do something that is softened up, so Fantastic Four, it just feels a little bit messy. But when you go hard with a Deadpool, it is going to interest audiences that wouldn't perhaps looked at the film that you're putting out there in the first place.
It's funny. I thought Fantastic Four looked great, and it looked really dark. Ultimately, the movie was a total disaster.
Khloe Kardashian looks great, but you wouldn't going to go.
The end, though, the end is where they went hard, and it felt like a real weird tonal shift. I thought they went too dark. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I know a lot of people have talked about X-Force being rated R.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this is like an anomaly. The Deadpool stuff. I don't think that you're going to see a ton of R-rated comic book movies now. Obviously, The Crow has already been in the works. That will be rated R. And there's a couple of others that could change to go in that more hardcore direction, like a Lobo, if that is still happening. I mean, Dwayne Johnson's doing Black Adam. He's playing Black Adam now, so he's not even Lobo anymore. I'd like to see Dwayne Johnson in something like Badass in R.
Yeah. They'll get around to putting him in something.
What was the other one? Some of the Vertigo titles that Warner Brothers has, I think could lend themselves to an R, but I don't know. I don't think that Deadpool's going to open the door for just a flood of R-rated comic book movies.
No, I don't think it'll be a flood, but I think they'll be more tempted to perhaps dabble in that pool.
Yeah, the lesson is to just be original and to try something different, I think. I don't know that it's necessarily the rating.
But I think what this has proved is the fact that if it's R-rated, it won't put people off. Which probably was a big concern for studios because, it's... And if you're doing it to be R-rated for a bloody good reason, rather than just doing it to shock, I think it'll sit well. But, I mean, this is proof that if you make it an R-rated movie, people are still going to turn out and see it.
Okay. We'll leave it there and talk about some other interesting stuff. And since you're a Brit,
I'm a Brit.
We're gonna lead.
Fish and chips.
We're gonna talk about. Let's talk about Emily Blunt playing Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Now this is something that's really been rumored since the fall when the project was first announced. Yesterday, our boy Justin at Variety, said that he did an in-talk story. Talks have progressed apparently since then, although she's pregnant. What do you think of Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins? Is she a good fit for that character?
I mean, she's fine. There's a handful of people that I think, could have perhaps done it. She's obvious casting. Keira Knightly could have done it.
Yeah,
Rebecca Hall, I think, would have been a good option, but she's not got the box office clout to do it as good as she is.
I don't think Keira or Rebecca Hall would have been good because neither one of them projects warmth in a way that I think Emily Blunt does.
Fair.
Yeah, I think Keira Knightley's a little cold.
Apart from in Sicario. She's not warm in that.
No, she's not.
No, that is not warm.
But but she was in the Muppets, right?
Yeah.
There's something child friendly there. I don't think Keira Knightley is really child friendly, but Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins, is there a demand for this movie? Are people clamoring for another Mary Poppins?
Is there a demand for it? I say yes.
Are
Because
little boys going to go see this movie?
No, hell no.
So who is this movie for?
Girls and female Disney fantasists, I think. It's for the same people who went to see Cinderella. And I think Maleficent is more of a Disney film that boys would have gone to see because she's evil and it's quite a female but masculine role.
Right.
I think this could be potentially too girly. But I mean, Mary Poppins is a film that a lot of people do love. It has a lot.
Of course, it's a classic.
I can't stand it. I would literally rather stick a knife in my leg than watch Mary Poppins.
And we have a knife for you right now. Bring it.
No, seriously, it literally just makes my skin crawl. I really can't. I've never been able to watch it all the way through. It just annoys me. But, the success of the musical
Who took out the spoonful of sugar from your coffee this morning?
That's a spoonful of hate, Mary Poppins. Yeah, I mean, there is a market for it. It is a universal film. It is something that has been loved for decades, and it's an easy sell for Disney. It also is something that's counter-programming to a lot of the other stuff they're doing, which is very Star Wars heavy. It does fit in well with their live action portfolio that they've got coming out over the next couple of years, and it's an easy sell. Obviously they tried to do Saving Mr. Banks a few years ago, which was a great movie playing on the Mary Poppins theme, but it didn't really sit that well with audiences.
Right.
So I think if they do want to milk that, they have to do another Mary Poppins movie, but it will be popular.
And it's going to be an original musical sequel, not a remake.
Yeah.
Featuring new songs. I don't know if they'll throw in a dash of the old ones, but I don't know.
It could be great,
we'll
but it could suck like the remake of Annie.
That's true. You don't want to be Annie.
If you are a fan of Mary Poppins, you set the bar so high with those songs, which are love 'em or hate 'em classics. Mm-hmm. It's really, really difficult to follow. It feels more like a straight to DVD kind of film, which I think might work. And Disney have done that with a lot of sequels to a lot of their hit theatre release movies previously. Mm-hmm. I think that could work. But it's going to be a big theatre movie. It's going to be a tentpole movie. It's going to make a shed load of money for Disney. I just think Emily Blunt she will do well, but I think it's kind of a bit lazy.
Okay.
I would have loved to see Emma Thompson. I know she's done Nanny McPhee.
Yeah, and that's what I kept thinking about when I hear Mary Poppins. I keep thinking a Nanny McPhee, another sort of movie like that. Yeah. And I don't know. The first one did okay, but the second one tanked, didn't it?
Yeah, but it did suck.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to The Dark Tower. Mad Max Fury Road actress Abby Lee, who's stunning, in talks to play the female lead, is what I've been told, and was reported first on Deadline yesterday in The Dark Tower, which will star Idris Elba as Roland and Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black. Thoughts? Do you have any?
You see, Stephen King adaptations tend 80% of the time to be bad.
Yeah.
These days.
That's really an understatement.
Bad. I love the novel Cell. That's being made into a movie at the moment.
Which I'm kind of looking forward to.
Well, I was looking forward to it, and then I saw that Sam Jackson and John Cusack were in it, and I'm like, oh. Now, I love them both, but it tends to be something that you'd find by accident on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a super indie, know, something sold at AFM or Berlin, one of those markets.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm interested in it, but whether or not it's been a project that's been another one that's been around for a long, long time.
Yep,
and it just hasn't stuck, and the casts haven't stuck, the directors haven't stuck, and they've had a lot of passes at writing it.
I think I mean that's like an indie sort of thing. This is like a big studio movie, though. It's got Brian Grazer, Ron Howard producing, Akiva Goldsman involved, Sony, MRC. Like there are.
But Ron Howard's involvement does not a good movie make.
No, not necessarily. He's not directing it. I mean, it's Nikolai Arcel.
Yeah.
I didn't see Royal Affair, but obviously that introduced us to one of our, biggest movie stars at the moment, Alicia Vikander. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about this Dark Tower thing. I haven't read the books. It's supposed to be King's masterwork.
Yeah.
I've never inherently understood the premise of it. Mm-hmm. Although I'm looking forward to the journey. But Abby Lee, she caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
I know that she has been testing for a lot of kind of bigger roles, and so she was bound to land one of them.
Sure.
There's been some confusion about what role she's playing because, we were told Tirana, but that's a very minor character in the 7th book, not the 1st book.
But they might not necessarily stick to the books.
Right. It sounds like they're definitely deviating. I mean, have you read the books?
No, I haven't. I'm aware of them, but I haven't read them.
All right.
But I mean, if they're, there's a lot of those books.
I'm surprised that The Dark Tower is actually getting off the ground before something like The Stand or It, which seem, much more easily digestible by today's movie audiences. I actually started watching 11/22/63 this week.
How did you find that?
It's on Hulu. I was like, how did you find it? I went on my telly.
Well, I turned it on.
I actually enjoyed it. I mean,
Okay.
Franco is a little off in that universe, but I'm a Franco fan, so I kind of went along with it. I actually really liked it. I would recommend it. But I'm not sure what to make of Dark Tower. I know I should be excited with Idris and McConaughey. That's an exciting pairing. The other thing, though, that intrigued me about this is that this is coming out in January, and it may even be next January, 2017,
Okay.
but it could be 2018 too, because it seems like a big movie. So that's January. Blade Runner 2 got dated for January. And The Great Wall, the Matt Damon movie, just moved to February. Is there something? Are we seeing studios experiment more with these kind of non-traditional release corridors for tentpoles?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, there are certain parts of, and this has been part of the problem for people like Paramount. There are certain parts of the year which are way too top-heavy for releases.
Absolutely.
It's overcrowded.
I've been amazed during the summer where it's just like, 3 blockbusters opening against each other on the same day. Hollywood is cannibalizing itself by limiting these films to a very small section of the calendar.
Yep.
So I think I'm encouraged.
And summer's getting earlier and earlier.
Oh yeah, summer's creeping up to end of March.
Yeah, I mean it's almost getting ridiculous now. So I mean that's only 12 weeks earlier in January, and also January there has been a bit of a dearth in good content. I mean this year, if you're not looking at awards content, there really hasn't been a lot out in the first quarter. That's you're sneaking things out like Dirty Grandpa and stuff like that, Ride Along 2, and I think studios are coming round to the idea that they do have to put something big and substantial out there in that first quarter just to buoy it up a bit.
It's like
Audiences
January
want
is sort of, at least the last couple of years, been taken over by that Christmas awards release, the big muscular one that they're saving for the very end of the year.
Yeah.
American Sniper, and then this year was The Revenant. The Revenant did, made most of its money this year, not last year. I don't know. I think it's a really interesting thing that we're seeing the way that studios are dating these movies. I know that Blade Runner caught some shit yesterday. People were like, "Oh, they're putting it in January. They don't have any faith in it. They think it's going to be terrible." Like, first of all, it hasn't even been cast, let alone shot. They don't know what they have yet.
Yeah, but that's kind of from the the armchair critics Ghostbusters kind of school of thought. It's like, you got women, it's gonna be shit. It's like,
well, yeah, that's what social media is today.
Watch the movie and then decide. Let them put people in it,
of course,
rather than going, it's in January, it's gonna be shit. It's like so because it's in January, it's shit,
right? And people said that with The Great Wall yesterday, too. Like, they took it off of Thanksgiving, this prime release date.
Yeah.
They're moving it to February. Oh, no, there must be something wrong with it. I don't think that's necessarily the case at all.
No, and you can't win. If they moved it back and was like, oh, well, clearly it's in trouble because they moved it back. It's like, no.
One thing we didn't have in our story that one of my coworkers, Matt Donnelly, pointed out is that they redated it for the Chinese New Year. I obviously didn't know when the Chinese New Year was. Apparently it's in mid-February that year. And the Great Wall is set in China. It was shot in China. It's a big movie for Legendary. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I don't think that it's a sign of trouble.
No, I think it's a very fertile part of the film release calendar that currently nobody's planting seeds in. I don't think we should read too much into it by the fact that if it's released in January, it's going to be rubbish.
Right.
I don't think that's fair.
And we just saw Deadpool break January, February records. 50 Shades last year did really well. Kingsman did really well in February. And so now I'm like circling back because one of the best things that I read this week was Mike Fleming's 25th anniversary remembrance of The Silence of the Lambs, which came out when?
January?
February. Close enough. February, and it was incredible. If you haven't read it, are you a Silence kind of guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sensing some indifference here.
No. I mean, I don't get really excited, but yeah.
Okay. Silence is one of my favorite movies. If you've been in
It's
my
okay. We
apartment,
don't have to agree on everything.
That's true.
Life would be so
But
dull.
I'm just stunned. Wow. So Silence of the Lambs came out in February. It's a fantastic piece. Definitely recommend to our listeners checking that out. Yeah, there was just like a whole like a 10-minute section of the film that they had in there, picture almost locked, and they showed it to William Goldman, and he was like, take that out. And they were like, what? And he was like, trust me, just take it out and see what it looks like. A brilliant note. The ending, there was just a lot of good stuff in that piece. So, Silence of the Lambs won the Oscar. It shows.
Yeah, but winning an Oscar does not a good movie make. I mean, there's a lot of crap that's won Oscars.
Sure.
I mean, it is a good movie. I like it. I don't think it's aged particularly well.
Okay.
But I remember seeing that in theaters in 1990, right?
Yeah, around then.
I'm like a kind of a really useless version of Rain Man. And I really enjoyed it, but I've gone back and I've watched it in later, and I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good, but
Okay. What else was out there this week? Transformers.
Christ,
We're getting Transformers 5 from Michael Bay, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And now Transformers 6 has been revealed to be a lower cost Bumblebee spin-off. Simon, what do you think?
Now, I love the first Transformers movie. Okay.
What?
No, I did. I really, really enjoyed it. I grew up with Transformers. I didn't grow up with Transformers like wolves, I wasn't raised by Optimus Prime. But I did really enjoy it. I did like that first movie. The others, oh dear God. Just
oh dear God.
Awful films. But do you know what? My opinion is completely irrelevant because they make shed loads of money, and that's why
I love that you keep saying shed loads. Like, you can say shitloads here, buddy, if you want to.
A truck full of caca. I mean, I think they're awful movies. I've watched all of them, and they get... each time a trailer comes out for Transformers, I'm like, this doesn't look like it blows. This could be the one.
Right, exactly.
This
It's funny.
could be the one
I'd say the exact same thing, I feel like.
that I love. And I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's like going back to an ex where you think, oh, we'll work our problems out. Oh, no, you're still a bitch. And it just doesn't get any better. But audiences love them. Audiences absolutely love them. And they make a lot of money for Paramount. So I can't slight Paramount. And I actually talk about this in my piece on Forbes, for making them, because they're a very lucrative mine.
It's Paramount's biggest franchise.
But
like, forget Mission
films.
Impossible and Jack Reacher and Star Trek.
Yeah, but Transformers, they're just shit.
Yeah, they're
shit
awful,
that
but
people will pay to see.
Okay, that's well established. But as far as Bumblebee being the character who's getting his own spin-off, no, you don't think that's a good idea.
But I would rather have Bumblebee than those really annoying, demi-racist robots that were in the second or third one. I mean, they've put a lot of incidental characters in these Transformers films over the years that are just, oh my God, they make my piss curdle. They are so annoying.
Do you like the idea of it being like a lower cost thing? Do you think that that's going to make it be not the Transformers that we know, or you think that there's something interesting that could be done with a single Transformer in his own movie that doesn't necessarily, is not necessarily driven by explosions?
Do you know what? Anything that just takes it away from robots fighting relentlessly, I'll get behind that.
What if it's like a boy and his robot, or like, just a smaller scale story, even if it's something like Chappie?
I didn't like Chappie.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be interesting and it could open it up, but it could be, it could be a really interesting idea. It could be Mac and Me. And
good reference.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I've still never got over the fact that my father once went to the video store to get E.T. They didn't have it and he brought Mac and Me home. Seriously.
Except no substitute, Dad.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's like E.T., but it sucks. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be interesting. And like I say, anything that takes it away from just robots beating the crap out of each other, which is basically what the Transformers movies have become, I think it is to be encouraged. And I think could lead somewhere quite interesting. And there are a lot of characters within the Transformers universe that I think they could introduce and try out to see if they work. But, I mean, do we need another Transformers movie? No.
No, we don't. No, I think we can both agree on that.
But it has, I mean, it has worked where you can bring it back around. Fast and Furious is a really good example of this, where in the second movie, obviously, they didn't have Vin Diesel. Third movie, they took it to Tokyo. And then they've kind of brought it all back around. And it has added some really nice colour to the franchise, which is great, and a little bit more, extra stories, more ideas, some really interesting characters that they can play with. So I think it could actually perhaps improve the franchise moving forward.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't think it can get any worse, and I think I'd rather see something different, like a low-cost Bumblebee spinoff, rather than Transformers 6.
Yeah, what we don't need is Optimus Prime just look, we've got to find the blah, blah, blah. Again, we've done that. We've been there. If it points it in a new direction with something more interesting, yeah, I'll go for that.
All right. Well, now, moving away from the fanboy stuff for just a moment, there's some other news this week. I broke a couple of stories. Jessica Chastain has been offered the lead in Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut, Molly's Game. She's also launched her own production company, Freckle Films. What are your thoughts on Miss Chastain?
I think she's great, and I think she's generally underused by Hollywood, to be honest with you. There are some women in the industry who can be quite interchangeable. They play a role, and anybody could have played that role. I think whenever she does a performance, she really does make it her own. And obviously, teaming her with Sorkin, who, Steve Jobs didn't get the love that perhaps it deserved from audiences.
I loved it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of critics did, but audiences just didn't engage with it. But, he's there, his writing, everything else, it's there. He knows what he's doing, and he tends to write for people, with people in mind. I did an interview with him a couple of years ago, and it's fascinating, actually, to discuss with him how he plans these things. So I think if he's putting her in that, there's a pretty good reason. It's not stunt casting, and it's not just, oh, well, she's available.
When I first heard it, I thought it was a good match. She's going to be playing Molly Bloom, who, organized and sort of hosted these poker games, underground poker games for people like Tobey Maguire and Ben Affleck, and eventually she was, arrested by the FBI. Just a really kind of interesting woman who has led a fascinating life. And I think could be a really cool role for Chastain.
And I think she's one of those actresses that doesn't appear to be in everything. She does pick what she's doing quite carefully. She's not in there's three.
Well, now she has earned the ability to be a little bit choosy.
Yeah.
She has the Huntsman sequel coming up. I know, Universal really wanted her at one point for The Mummy.
Yeah.
She has no shortage of those sort of franchise options, but there is a certain intelligence to her, and I like that she's going out on her own to generate material. Every now and then I scratch my head, the one that, the Sitting Bull movie that she's planning to do, where I'm just that may be something that she's passionate about, but I'm not so sure that there's an audience for something like that.
Yeah.
But more power to her.
But what actor and actress hasn't had that little passion project on the side where they've done it, and it's kind of, how it works. With the deal, it's if you let me do this little movie that probably no one will see, then I'll do that movie that I don't really want to do.
I'm very excited by the possibility of her, spouting Sorkin's dialogue. That could be really cool. Also, in powerful actress news, Keira Knightly in talks to play Catherine the Great for Barbra Streisand.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You see, there are a lot of people out there that don't like Keira Knightly. They have a problem with her, just fundamentally. I've actually got a lot of time for her. I do enjoy her in the stuff that she's in. Not everything.
I was wait, you have a lot of time for her?
No, I mean, not everything. She's done some things that haven't really worked, and she's taken a few roles that she perhaps shouldn't have. But the film she was in with Mark Ruffalo last year, Begin Again. Yeah, I loved her in that. I thought it was great. Given the right material, she can.
I loved her in Laggies.
Okay.
The Chloe Moretz. You weren't a fan, or did you see it?
I heard of it. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
But, okay. That's okay. But I think, given the right material, she can do really good stuff.
And this was the #1 script on the blacklist.
Yeah.
So Hollywood has given its stamp of approval to the project. I mean, it threw me for a loop when Barbra Streisand was announced as the director, but obviously she does have chops.
Yeah.
Sorry, just checking the text. Make sure there's no breaking news. that I haven't, gotten the Han Solo role yet.
Are you still in the running for that?
Oh yeah, I tested twice. They brought me back. Yeah, I don't know. Keira Knightly, Barbara Streisand, Gil Netter, the producer of Life of Pi. Like, it's a very intriguing package that's coming together around that Blacklist script. So we'll keep an eye on that. Christian Bale getting back together with Scott Cooper for a movie called Hostiles with an I. Not like Eli Roth's Hostel, but plural. What did you think of Out of the Furnace?
I liked it. I found it a little bit too dry, to be honest with you. I know, it didn't quite sit well with a lot of people. But Christian Bale, I'm not his biggest fan.
Really?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know he's British. I'm
Welsh, right?
Yeah, he is. He is Welsh.
Yeah.
Very few people know that, actually. He's from North Wales. Yeah. I like Christian Bale. Sometimes I find his performances a little bit worthy and a little bit difficult to swallow. They're kind of a bit dry.
Did you like him in The Big Short?
I did.
So yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was like head and shoulder. He was like in a different movie than everybody.
I tend to like him more when he's kind of playing an asshole.
Yeah.
I think he does that really, really well.
Sure, whether it's Hustle or American Psycho.
Yeah,
or...
I do think he just fits that perfectly. But other times I don't mean personally. I mean just when his acting style, it just really, really gels nicely. But other times, I mean, I can take him or leave him. If he's doing his I'm going for an award or I'm going for something, it just gets a little bit too serious and a bit too dry for me. So
I'd love to have seen him as Steve Jobs. Yeah, Out of the Furnace I thought was okay. It didn't quite come together for me. This movie is like, he's like, it's almost like a Western, but he like links up with this like Native American war chief, and then like he's sick and he has to escort the war chief back home, and then they fight Comanche tribes and then like survive the elements. It sounds
very much like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
It's almost like that sounds like a little Revenant-y, Revenant-y, a little. I don't know. It was an interesting announcement yesterday.
It just depends on whether he's going to have fun with it, and I don't mean like in a lol kind of way, or whether he is going to go, okay, I'm going to do this and with the aim of getting an Oscar.
Like, he dropped out of Michael Mann's Ferrari movie and is now taking something like this on, which is, a much smaller scale indie. Scott Cooper, to me, interesting director, but I don't think that he's hit a home run yet.
No.
Black Mass was kind of disappointing. It was watchable, but it didn't fulfill its potential. Out of the Furnace, Crazy Heart, same thing. I had problems with the third act of Crazy Heart, so I don't know.
Well, so, I mean, he's a very capable director.
Yes, he knows what he's doing.
Visually, I love what he does. I just feel that he just lacks a little bit of life in some of the directions sometimes.
Okay. What else? Woody Allen's movie. It was acquired by Amazon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now he also has a TV series at Amazon. What's going on with Amazon? Do you ever consume content from them?
Not as often as I do from people like Netflix and Hulu. I think Amazon have yet to kind of find their thing right now in the market, and I think obviously buying into Woody Allen, I think will give them a level of kudos. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a massive. I have Amazon Prime. I occasionally dabble in their content, but I used their stuff in the UK before I relocated, and they tend to be very much the afterthought. They're kind of third on that tier. So I think this will probably lift them up a little bit. There's nothing really there that shouts sexy to me at the moment.
Now, I have Amazon Prime too.
Okay.
I barely use it. In fact, my roommate uses my account more than I do. But that's as far as sending himself shit. As far as watching video,
himself shit.
He sends himself it.
That's a dirty habit.
So it's like I never really go on Amazon Prime, but I understand you still have to pay for the things you want to watch, right?
Some.
Like the
Some
movies
are included.
Not like you can watch the shows for free, right? Like Red Oaks or whatever, but the movies you're still paying a premium for.
Yes. in some cases.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I don't want to do that. If I'm paying like $100 a year or whatever it is for Amazon Prime, it just doesn't make sense to me.
But it's still seen very much as a platform, as an add-on. I don't think people go out of their way to go, I'm not going to have the Amazon Prime delivery service, but I am going to have the streaming content. I don't think it works.
Well, maybe they need to
way.
separate that idea. Like, if I'm paying a set fee for Amazon, I want all the content.
Yep.
Under that
They'll
brand.
probably have to move in that direction. I mean, they are looking very much at going more into this original content thing, and I think to stay competitive,
they're spending
they
out a
have to.
ton of fucking money. They just got White Girl, which was at Sundance, and I'm really curious to see that. But they got Manchester by the Sea, I think, at Sundance, which for like $10 million. I get if you're gonna pay a premium for and I heard that this Woody Allen deal was also fairly significant. I get that you're gonna have to charge customers to acquire when you're acquiring things like that, but I don't know.
I don't think it'll make them a shed load of money if it is one of those, you have to pay extra to do it. Because I think, Woody Allen, I've never been his biggest fan. He's done things that I've liked, but the majority of his stuff I can take or leave. You know, I know some people will say that's a terrible thing, but, he's very hit and miss. And I don't know if there's enough of an audience of the die-hard Woody Allen that are going to put their credit card details in and watch the movie like that. Mm-hmm. But
it'll still get a theatrical release. Amazon will partner with somebody, but it's like I go on Netflix. It's not like they charge me extra to watch Beast of No Nation.
No, I think it's a brave model in the marketplace, and I don't think it's something that they will be able to sustain as much as they perhaps would like to. But we'll see. I mean, it just is a case of whether the audience is going to engage with it, and if it's just not dull. I mean, a lot of Woody Allen stuff has been really dull. And if you look at how many films have actually been a hit of his over the last 10, 20 years, they're few and far between. So the amount of people that I think will engage with it in the first place is slightly limited.
Okay.
And they're probably people who have Netflix or have Hulu who don't necessarily have Amazon.
Those are good points. So we're going to wrap up the show with a little discussion about the Oscars.
Okay.
What do you think is going to win Best Picture? It's very up in the air this year.
Do you know what? I think it's going to be The Revenant.
Why?
Because I just think Leonardo DiCaprio and things that he's been in for many, many years have been so close to getting Oscar love. And I think this year will be the year that they'll go, like they did with things like the Lord of the Rings movies. They'll just go, okay, this year, this is the year to do it. Because what I've noticed with the Oscars, there tends to be waves of issue movies. So whether it's to do with a particular topic or to do with a particular movie, and they kind of when there's a quiet year, what they tend to do, as I've found, is go, okay, there's not an issue movie this year. Let's just go with the person who's due the dues. Mm-hmm. And I think this year will be that year.
Okay. I mean, it's certainly a sexy narrative to get swept up in.
Yeah.
And everyone is... It's so funny. It's like everyone's cheering him on, like there's that Oscar. There's the website that's like, has Leonardo DiCaprio won an Oscar yet? Yes, and it's just like a big word that says no. There's the game, where Leo tries to get an Oscar. I have like this new app on my phone, that gives you like different filters. You can put your face in and look like them. And DiCaprio's filter has like him holding 2 Oscars. So there really is a groundswell where people want to see him win. And if you go online to like the bookies and stuff, his odds are astronomical.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you look at who's up for that award, who's he up against?
The competition in Best Actor is super weak this year.
Yeah.
Super
and
weak.
I think also in Best Movie, I think it feels that way as well. And I think because there is this groundswell and people who haven't even seen The Revenant know about The Revenant and have an opinion that The Revenant should win, I just think it's kind of a foregone conclusion.
You think so? I think it's much closer than you're giving it credit for. I think it's wide open.
Interesting.
And
why do you think that?
Well, just that I think Spotlight definitely has the stuff that wins are made of, so to speak.
And I think it should win because that is a great movie.
Yes,
from performances,
I agree,
and script, the whole thing just nails it.
I agree. And it's funny. What was I reading yesterday? I think it was like Ann Thompson wrote something interesting, because The Revenant did not win the PGA, The Big Short did, and so everyone's like, "Oh, The Big Short's the new Oscar frontrunner." Like, I don't think the Big Short has a chance.
The Big Short, as great as it is, won't win.
The Big Short, I didn't think was great. It was my least favorite movie, actually, of all the nominees.
Oh, interesting.
I couldn't tell you why it won the PGA, other than, but it's, people were writing off The Revenant at that point, but I understand why that didn't win the PGA, or as she was writing, because it was a poorly produced movie. They went super over budget. There were just all kinds of issues, problems. Some of them were unforeseeable, but some of them certainly could have been avoided, and so the producers didn't want to honor that. But I do suspect that the Academy will, they will overlook those issues, and I think that The Revenant will win. Yeah. But Spotlight,
not for the right reasons.
Yeah, Spotlight is going to give it a run for its money. I don't know. I'm not going to bet on the race this year. I know that much.
I would be more confident about Spotlight, and that really is the one that I would love to see walk away with it if it was getting a bit more love across the board, and it just doesn't. It's been nominated for a lot of things, and it's just not getting the love that it deserves.
Yeah.
I think partly because of the subject matter, a lot of people are prickly about it.
Which is unfortunate, because it really has done a lot for victims of sexual abuse and that kind of thing. The Vatican's obviously praised it to the high heavens, if you will. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting show given all the diversity, controversy, and Chris Rock hosting, and I think it's the most diverse presenters list ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm expecting a good show a week from Sunday. So.
Yeah, I think what will be really interesting is what happens with the Oscars next year. Right. Once all this change has actually taken effect, because there is a lot of talk about it, but we haven't actually seen the fruits of the labor. So I think next year
that's
will
up
be
to Hollywood,
yeah.
And there are more, possible, sort of prestige black films, if you will, or black performances, that kind of stuff. It is a better year for that coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss, Simon? That I missed, or
I think one thing that I would like to talk about, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it, is the Lethal Weapon,
the TV series. Who's that? Damon Wayans, and they don't have
they don't have someone to put into the Mel Gibson role. Who do you think it should be?
Wow!
Because I thought about
me
this
on the spot,
really, really sort of long and hard, and I'm going with Aaron Paul.
Interesting.
I think he would be pretty good.
I would not, I don't think I could see him like that, because I don't know how good he is as like a romantic lead. Like, that's where, Mel Gibson and Rene Russo, like, I don't know. He has The Way, which looks amazing. There's the Way of the Path. It's The Path, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, The Way is the other one. Maybe, I don't fucking know. He has a Hulu series.
Yeah.
He has a Hulu series that looks tremendous. So I don't think that he's going to be doing a Lethal Weapon thing. I'd have to really think about that. It's hard when you put me on the spot.
Do you think it's going to be any good? Because I'm not.
No, none of these
about it.
none of these shows are good. No, network television is garbage. I watch maybe one show per network, and I can almost guarantee Lethal Weapon will not be one of them. So. Sorry.
Well,
Sorry,
that went down well.
Yeah. But hey, comment and leave us your suggestions for Lethal Weapon.
Thanks for that, Simon. That was wow.
Sorry, I left you hanging there, buddy.
No, it's fine.
Listen, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Where can the good folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ShowbizSimon, and also you can read my stuff at Forbes. Please read my stuff at Forbes, because then I get paid more. So you can find me on Twitter at ShowbizSimon. And if you think my name is too jazz hands, just tell me. Be honest, I could take it.
Well, I don't get paid more if you read my rap articles, but read them anyways, please. We have some fun stuff coming up on the Wrap soon, so stay tuned. Check out my interview with James Jagger that hit this week on the new star of Vinyl, which just got picked up for a second season.
Yeah, which is great news.
Did you watch the pilot?
I did, yeah.
Did you like it?
Great show. Really good. Really deserves to.
Were you shocked by the violent incident at the end?
Not so much.
Okay. Anyways, folks, rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're going to be back next week with a new, well, not a permanent co-host, but a new guest, if you will, maybe a familiar face. This is Jeff Sneider signing off. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only, do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.